Panic and confusion in one of Bogota's most exclusive shopping areas. The explosion felt and heard as people were buying gifts ahead of Father's Day. Police say the device was placed in a toilet in a female restroom.
I was taking care of a client when I heard the explosion. Then all of a sudden they told everyone to evacuate, and when we were outside, we found out that a person had been killed and several others injured.
One of the victims is a French woman who was visiting Colombia.
De 23 años.
She is 23 years old. Her name is Julie Queen, and she came to do some social work at a school in a Bogota neighborhood for 6 months. This act has hurt us very much.
Bogota's mayor says the explosion is linked to terrorism. Security has improved in the capital over the past 10 years. In December 2016, a historic peace deal was signed between FARC rebels and the government, but there have since been several attacks. An explosion near a bull ring in February killed a police officer and injured dozens. That attack was claimed by the National Liberation Army, yet the rebel group has denied playing any role in Saturday's bombing. Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos has ordered an investigation which is now underway.
London police now say at least 58 people are presumed dead following a horrific fire Wednesday that destroyed a high-rise apartment building. Jonathan Vigliotti says people who live there are now demanding answers.
Anger boiled over on Friday as people stormed Kensington and Chelsea Town Hall. Soon afterwards, Prime Minister Theresa May was chased away from a local church. On Saturday, she met with a group of residents in the more controlled setting of 10 Downing Street.
Officials have yet to answer several key questions. What caused the fire? Could it have been prevented? And why aren't people getting the aid they desperately need now?
Many survivors are sleeping on the floor in community centers, and there's still no coordinated distribution of donated food and clothing. Residents who survived said they warned the building's manager about fire hazards for years, but were ignored.
How many times have you complained about the safety of the building?
Many times.
Miguel Alves complained about construction tools blocking the exits. The neighborhood's residents association said the management company was negligent.
People raised these concerns. People were expressing issues regarding the safety and dangerous living conditions. Unfortunately, they were not listened.
Building officials have not commented since the fire. The recovery effort resumed this afternoon, but the police warn it could take weeks for answers to emerge.
May must go! 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 May must go!
Certainly lots of calls for answers. They're saying they want to know the real numbers of how many people had died. They're saying the death toll is going to be much larger and officials are not telling them enough. There are lots of concerns about whether or not this could have been prevented, considering some of the material used in the reconstruction works that were carried out. And what happened with Grenfell Tower is by many here seen as something that's just a symbol of the huge disparity that exists here in the UK and in London between the wealthier and those who are a little less well off.
A liberal mosque where all Muslims can pray together regardless of their gender, sexuality or branch of Islam has opened in Germany. The Ibn Rushd Gada Mosque, which is housed inside a Protestant church in Berlin, is the first of its kind in the country. Sunni and Shiite believers are encouraged to preach alongside one another, and women will not be allowed to wear veils. Women's rights activist Sarah Nates, who has campaigned for a progressive place of worship for Muslims in Germany for 8 years, said, "I couldn't be more euphoric. It's a dream come true. This project was long overdue. So much Islamist terror and so much evilness happening in the name of my religion. It's important that we, the modern and liberal Muslims, also show our faces in public." More than 4 million Muslims live in Germany, the majority from Turkey but also from the Balkans, the Middle East and Northern Africa. Most started coming to Germany in the 1960s as workers to help rebuild the economy after World War II. While it was Germany's intention to send them home after a few years, many stayed and brought over their families. More recently, Germany has taken in more than 1 million refugees since.
Several hundred German Muslims have held a peace march in Cologne in protest at the number of deadly Islamic extremist attacks that have hit Europe recently. They marched under the slogan, "Not with us." I'm here at the Peace March to send a signal. I'm from a Muslim family, and I don't want people to say in our name who's a believer and who is not. And I certainly don't want people killing in my name. The turnout was far fewer than the tens of thousands the organisers had expected. Germany's biggest Islamic association had said earlier in the week that it wouldn't take part in the march, saying that would imply that extremism is mainly a Muslim problem.
Lawmakers in the state of Utah have approved a new law that's meant to crack down on the increasing problem of cyberbullying. The new regulation gives prosecutors the ability to send online bullies to jail for up to 1 year and makes it a crime to post personal information about a person online that's meant to intimidate or abuse or threaten or harass or frighten or even disrupt the electronic communications of another person. Critics of the law say it's too broad and could penalize people for their First Amendment rights. But supporters say this is the only way to crack down on targeted online threats.
High drama on the Shakespeare in the Park stage. Friday night as a woman stormed the stage and started yelling at the actors. This year's production of Julius Caesar depicts Caesar as a President Trump lookalike who's stabbed to death on stage.
Well, 2 protesters were arrested, their rants temporarily stopping the show in Central Park. One woman stormed the stage saying, "Stop the normalization of violence against the right." Another man shouted, "This is violence against Donald Trump." Audience members reportedly booed the disruptions. Now, the Public Theater's production of Shakespeare's 400-year-old play is set in modern times, with the main character depicted as a Donald Trump-like leader who was assassinated by his closest advisors.
They obviously played pretty hard on what's happening with Trump at the moment, and it was very amusing.
The actor himself looks so similar to Trump. There were some scenes with his hand gestures or tweets. He was like on his phone at times.
The Public Theater's website saying the play does not advocate violence and is a cautionary tale about not using undemocratic means to defend democracy.
For a 4th of July celebration canceled in New Orleans because one person doesn't like President Trump. The founder of the annual Flotilla Parade making the call to cancel it, saying in an interview, "When I think about wearing my flag dress and waving flags, I don't know what it means this year."
Hey, Heather, yeah, this is childish. I mean, the whole suggestion that America is about one man is insulting to many Americans. America is about ideas, it's about freedom, it's about justice, it's about liberty. And so to take this route about making it about Donald Trump, I think is the wrong route to go. I think a lot of Americans, this is exactly what they're sick of. They want to be able to come and have fun and talk about the ideas of America. But now we have people making even the idea about America partisan.
We know that Secretary Mattis is about to make a decision about U.S. troop levels heading into Afghanistan, possibly increasing those troops. At the same time, serious questions as to how safe U.S. troops, they're even on their own bases as they train their Afghan partners. Another attack today. Any update on how many Americans were hurt?
There sure are, Leland. A short time ago, a U.S. official told me there's 7 U.S. Army soldiers that have been wounded in northern Afghanistan. Now, this comes a week after 3 U.S. Army soldiers were killed in a similar incident, which the military calls an insider attack by Afghan forces that are supposed to be friendly. As you mentioned, Leland, the Pentagon and Secretary Mattis are weighing a decision to send up to 4,000 more U.S. American soldiers to Afghanistan to help the Afghan army defeat the Taliban as we close in on 16 years of war in that country.
The U.S. Navy says all 7 bodies of the missing crew members of a destroyer have been found off the coast of Japan. According to local media, the U.S. military will now proceed to confirm the identity of the bodies. The USS Fitzgerald collided with a Filipino container ship on Saturday. The ship is now back in its home port south of Tokyo after taking on water and sustaining substantial damage. The Philippine-flagged container ship ACX Cristo berthed at Tokyo's Oi Wharf.
Local media reports officials began questioning crew members for suspicion of possible endangerment of traffic caused by professional negligence.
U.S. President Donald Trump tweeted this, quote, "Thoughts and prayers with the sailors of USS Fitzgerald and their families. Thank you to our Japanese allies for their assistance."
One Israeli police officer was killed and another wounded during two coordinated attacks in Jerusalem on Friday. The assaults occurred at the same time in two separate areas near East Jerusalem's Old City. 3 Palestinian attackers were all shot dead at the scene. The Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attacks.
Relations between rivals Iran and Saudi Arabia have taken another hit. Iranian media reported that Saudi Arabia's Coast Guard shot and killed an Iranian fisherman in the Persian Gulf. The incident happened on Friday after 2 fishing boats strayed due to high waves. So far, there's no reaction from the Saudi side. Relations between the two sides are at their worst in years. Last week, Riyadh, along with other Arab governments, severed ties with Qatar, citing its support of Iran. Days later, suicide bombings and shootings in Tehran killed 17 people. Shiite Muslim Iran repeated accusations against Saudi Arabia funding Sunni Islamist militants. Riyadh has denied involvement in those attacks.
Iran's foreign ministry has expressed deep regret over the killing of an Iranian fisherman by Saudi Coast Guards in the Islamic Republic's southern waters. Foreign Ministry spokesman Bahram Qasimi said a bitter incident will be dealt with appropriately and seriously after conducting preliminary investigations.
Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin has slammed anti-Moscow sanctions approved by the U.S. Senate, saying they will, quote, complicate relations between the two countries. In an interview with Russian media, Putin said the fresh U.S. sanctions were prompted by fears of Russia as a serious competitor. He said it was too early to talk about retaliatory measures. Now, the Russian president, however, did warn that the Kremlin would think of a proper response instead of plunging into a deadlock.
At the time when Kurdish forces press ahead with the battle against Daesh in Raqqa, reports indicate that Turkey plans to fight the Kurds using the so-called Free Syrian Army. The cooperation between Turkey and FSA militants is nothing new. The Turkish army depended on those forces to gain ground in its Euphrates Shield operation inside Syria.
Ankara is now training the FSA because with their help it liberated Al-Bab area. Unfortunately, Turkey is not part of the Raqqa battle because it didn't want to see the Kurds' participation and urged the US to cooperate with the FSA instead of Kurds.
Pro-Kurdish opposition party HDP and other opposition parties have refused Turkey's military operations in Syria, saying the consequences of such adventurism will haunt Turkey sometime in the future. Many believe that Turkey's sole aim is to keep Kurds away from its borders, for fear of their long-time ambition of establishing their autonomous region. Turkey seems ready to cooperate with any force that can help it achieve this goal.
Forget your boarding pass. A face scan may soon be all you need to board a flight. U.S. Customs is partnering with some airlines to test facial recognition technology to see if it makes boarding faster. The trials are happening at several airports, including JFK. A camera snaps a photo and compares it to a government database of passport pictures. If you get the green light, you just board the plane.
You can literally go from, curb to plane without having to interact with a human being if you so desire.
I'm just going to walk up and they're going to take a picture and that's it. It just amazes me, the technology.
There are concerns about privacy and the risk of security breaches at passport databases. U.S. Customs says it is not storing photos of American citizens. As for speeding up security checkpoints, the TSA is testing fingerprint technology to replace ID checks.
TSA is also testing new baggage scanners that are supposed to make flying safer. The 3D images they create also mean passengers won't have to remove laptops or liquids. The scanners use a special kind of imaging instead of the X-rays that traditional baggage scanners rely on. American Airlines and the TSA will soon start testing the technology in Phoenix and Boston.
It's probably a good thing that people can't see through things like walls or clothing, but an Israeli startup might be changing that, in a responsible way, of course. Vayar has developed sensors that it says can see through materials, objects, and liquids to generate 3D images. Its 3D sensors utilize countless antennae to send out and receive radio signals that pass through objects. They're saying that this technology will have tons of applications. It'll be able to detect breast cancer cells through the skin, and it'll also have uses in finding people buried in rubble after natural disasters or building collapses. While X-ray and MRI machines cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, Vaillard devices could be cheap enough so that every doctor could have one in their office, making for easy, quick, and painless breast cancer screenings, among other things. Beyond that, Vaillard devices could be replacing security cameras in some environments too. It's an exciting new technology.
To the index now, starting right here in New York City, where a Legionnaire's outbreak has turned fatal. 7 cases confirmed in one Manhattan neighborhood. One person in their 90s has died. Investigators are focusing on water towers as a possible source of that outbreak. And caught on camera, sharks in Gulf Shores, Alabama, right there near the shore, swimming along this packed beach. Witnesses say a volunteer firefighter jumped in the water to warn people about the danger.
Yeah. Surf's up, but business is down. Blame it on the shark effect, with dozens of great whites being spotted along the coast. Within the last year alone, 2 shark attacks took place within a 25-mile stretch of Southern California beaches. In April, a 36-year-old mom lost part of her right leg. She remains hospitalized. Lifeguards now start the day scanning the water for sharks.
It looks like the area is shark-free.
No one knows why the great whites moved in and stayed, but it scared people away. A typical summer day would bring up to 10,000 beachgoers. On this day, it was nearly empty. Surf camp owner John Pierce has his lowest attendance in 16 years.
Oh, normal year we'd have like 20 plus kids in a class, and I'd run 2 classes a day, and we'd be full all summer with waitlists.
His business is down by more than 50%. Some surf camps are canceling classes entirely. One area surfing contest for kids was canceled for the first time in 21 years.
"64 earthquakes today have been recorded at Yellowstone's supervolcano today, with 233 quakes in only the past 4 days. NASA has been monitoring Yellowstone during this time, with its most advanced airplane ever made, the Boeing Sophia 747. From looking at the chart, the earthquakes seem to be hitting at a shallower depth, as the day progresses and the intensity in magnitude is growing each passing day.
More than 20 people have reportedly been killed and several others hurt by a devastating forest fire in central Portugal. According to initial reports, most of the victims were trapped in their cars and burned alive or suffocated. At least 2 people are missing. Portugal's Prime Minister Antonio Costa was quickly at the scene as the scale of the drama became clear. He confirmed it's the worst tragedy in terms of lives lost in the last few decades. The blaze broke out in the mountainous Pedro Gao Grande region on Saturday amid an intense heat wave and grew in intensity, fanned by strong winds.
It's about to get really hot in the southwest, and health officials want people to stay alert. Temperatures are expected to reach record highs this week. Forecasters say it could get up to 120 degrees in Tucson and Phoenix. The National Weather Service has issued excessive heat warnings for both areas. The heat has also hit Sacramento and Los Angeles County. Starting Friday, both were expecting 7 straight days of 100-degree weather. The region is no stranger to heat waves, and despite record-breaking highs in some areas this year, past years have been much harder. In 2013, it got so hot in California that a man reported seeing his running shoes melt. The temperature was 128 degrees. Almost a decade earlier, in 2005, a similar heat wave killed 17 people in Las Vegas. The high was 117 degrees. These high temperatures are caused by an aptly named weather phenomenon, heat domes. In a heat dome, high pressure seals the atmosphere and prevents hot air from escaping. Beyond high temperatures, experts also say heat domes trap pollution and lower air quality. Health officials recommend people stay hydrated, limit time outside, and recognize the symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
The National Weather Service has decided the Bellevue, Nebraska damage was caused by a tornado. No word now on the enhanced Vegeta scale strength, but we should have information about that by Sunday. It's going to be another night of severe thunderstorms and really strong winds across much of the plains and on into the Midwest. It does look like these areas could see an enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms. And again, I'm really concerned about potential tornadoes and very, very gusty winds. Take a look at the overnight radar forecast, which shows these thunderstorms moving through Michigan, stretching all the way down into parts of Kansas. This is where you're looking at the potential for severe on Sunday. Northeastern Texas all the way up into just about all of New York State. Really strong winds aloft will be translating down to the surface, so that means wind damage is certainly possible, as is heavy rainfall. Sunday, this cold front will be pushing its way eastward with those showers and thunderstorms making it to the Atlantic and New England by Monday. That area pretty saturated from previous rain, so flooding certainly going to be a problem there.
In 2005, Gage Lipscomb began having chronic fevers when he was just 2 years old.
We just knew that something, he just didn't feel good. He was crying a lot, and we'd been taking him to doctors, and they really just didn't see what was going on.
The Lipscombs found a doctor who discovered an acute UTI. Tests were run and results showed Gage's kidneys were failing. That night, he was flown to Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, where he underwent surgery. 12 years later, Gage needs a new kidney after having one removed when he was 6. And his donor? His very own dad.
The bigger he gets, the less function he has, and he's growing, so he's going to get one of mine now, and we're hoping he's going to sprout up like a weed and everything does good.
It's probably best that he's giving it to me because it's not just like, it's just the best match and everything, and so it should work out the best, but also he's my dad, you know, it's good.
The father and son say they have no fear going into the big surgery.
God's had his hand in this since the beginning.
I'm not worried about it at all. I just think just get out and just can't wait till it happens. Everything just afterwards.
The family says their faith in God has helped them through the process.
God gives us what he knows we can handle, but all of our crosses are made just for us, and those are the ones that we give back. And that's what I want God to do, is just bless all these people abundantly for their generosity.
Thanks.
You're welcome, son.
So